New cars are supposed to be safer, smarter, and more dependable. Yet some of the newest models have so many problems that they nearly beg for a longer warranty. And it's not hyperbole. These cars are putting consumers in a financial bind, from software bugs that destroy your dashboard to fixes that are more expensive than the car is worth. Keep your eyes on it, because this list is riddled with six-figure catastrophes that even insurance companies are reluctant to touch. Premium EVs and best-selling SUVs. You must watch this first if you're looking to buy a new car in 2025. Let's start with the Jeep Wrangler on our list. The Jeep Wrangler may be among the worst investments of 2025, something I never would have predicted. Although it appears to be freedom on four wheels, there are a number of costly issues hiding behind that tough skin. Top trims like the Rubicon 3092 cost more than the basic car, which begins at $35,000, almost $80,000. It's not simply too expensive. It's crazy for a car that can hardly make it across the highway without trembling. Jeep has been working for years to address the notorious death wobble, a dramatic front-end shaking at highway speeds that owners continue to experience. What about the alleged fixes? At best, most people refer to them as transient. The Sky One Touch Power Top is another option. It sounds great until it begins to leak water into your cabin. Puddles accumulating in the roof panels and seeping into the inside are what we're talking about. To make matters worse, let's discuss electrical pandemonium. Everything is connected to a delicate part known as the totally integrated power module. Including power windows and dashboard instruments, your Wrangler turns into an extremely costly paperweight if that doesn't work. Even the suspension components and tow hooks have been questioned. Not ideal for a car designed to handle the elements. Look, I see the allure, but a Toyota 4Runner or even a Land Cruiser would be a better investment for the money. They don't have the same reputation, but they also don't have to deal with a mountain of insurance hassles and repair expenditures. The Ford F-50 Hybrid is the next car on our list. I never imagined that I would include the F-150 on such a list. For more than 40 years, it has been the best-selling truck in America. Up until now, it has been a workhorse, a legend, and a no-brainer for consumers. The 2025 F-150 Hybrid was intended to be the more intelligent and environmentally friendly continuation of that tradition. Rather, it proved to be one of the year's worst disappointments. It received an 8 out of 100 dependability rating from Consumer Reports. It's not just low. In other words, you may want to maintain a backup car on hand. Within the first year, owners report anything from jerky acceleration, hard power changes, odd engine noises, and even warnings about the battery system. Furthermore, these are not unique instances. Disgruntled drivers who purchased hybrids in the hopes of saving money but ended up returning time and time again to the dealership are common on forums. Although it was advertised as smooth, the powertrain is really erratic. The car seems unimpressive when it's not acting up, and occasionally it surges and hesitates. Not even the fuel efficiency lives up to the hype. Many owners claim that, particularly when carrying or towing, the real-world MPG hardly outperforms the standard gas version. Not to mention the cost of repairs. Because hybrid systems are complicated, replacing parts like the battery pack or control modules after the warranty expires will be quite expensive. Out of 5 owners, just 2 stated they would repurchase the hybrid F-150. Ford's standing in the truck industry has been severely damaged by it. Nothing is worse than putting your confidence in a brand you've always trusted. So if you're looking for a hybrid truck for 2025, this is definitely not the one you want. Only to regret it as soon as you pull off the property. The Land Rover Discovery Sport comes next. I was certain that this would be on the list. In fact, I would most likely receive a lot of criticism in the comments if I didn't mention it. For all the wrong reasons, the Land Rover Discovery Sport is a legend. It consistently scores close to the bottom for dependability, and 2025 is no exception. It received a score of 32 out of 100 from Consumer Reports. Not only is that awful, but it's terrain of what were you thinking? For the $50,000 price tag, you would anticipate luxury, but instead you get a rigid, unwieldy car that handles like a shopping cart with a flat tire. And the system for infotainment? Don't even attempt. It is sluggish, unreliable, and annoying. Imagine antiquated software that has been elegantly adorned. Rebooting will take up more of your time than traveling. Though ostentatious on the outside, it's a mixed bag within. However, as you take a seat, you discover that the materials feel less expensive than you anticipated. Because of the hefty pillars and strange angles, the arrangement is uncomfortable and sight is poor. Who is purchasing this item then? To be honest, people are more interested in the brand than the experience, because once the new car smell goes away, you're left with a headache worth $60,000, a car that doesn't sell for much money, and more time spent in the shop than driving. There are more dependable and superior ways to spend your money if you want a true luxury SUV. The Tesla Cybertruck comes next. I hope to fall in love with the Cybertruck. Yes, I did. The design is outrageous, the hype is incredible, but the reality is a nightmare made of $100,000 stainless steel. Instead of starting with a light or sensor, let's start with the recall. No. A piece of external trim called the can tail might literally fly off while driving, forcing Tesla to recall more than 50,000 Cybertrucks. It's not a bug. Flying along the highway poses a risk. And it gets worse. It's hardly ideal in a storm when the windshield wipers on certain cars entirely fail. Others have sticky accelerator pedals that make the car continue to accelerate even when you take your foot off the gas. Rare, according to Tesla, is irrelevant when you're at the wheel, and a wedge of metal weighing 6,800 pounds won't stop. Then there are the typical Tesla quality control problems, such as misplaced panels, creaking sounds, and hurried trim. For what purpose? When fully outfitted, this car may cost over $98,000. You don't anticipate panel gaps large enough to misplace your keys for that type of money. You want perfection. Even Tesla acolytes are beginning to acknowledge this. It may be too soon for the Cybertruck. Although it is brash, ostentatious, and attracts attention, it is really releasing early beta test energy at the price of luxury cars. Now let's talk about the Volkswagen ID.4. According to Volkswagen, the ID.4 would compete with Tesla. The fact that you would spend more time battling the technology than taking in the drive was something they neglected to mention. The ID.4 appears to be a reliable EV at first look. It has a well-known brand, a reasonable price, and the appropriate appearance. However, problems quickly get worse if you start driving and, more importantly, living with it. Let's discuss software. The ID.4's center screen controls everything, including the climate and driving settings. No buttons. Additionally, you lose access to everything when that screen stops. And it occurs frequently. Owners complain of touch controls that lag so much that they make your 2012 smartphone seem quick, dark screens during startup and occasional reboots while driving. Driver assistance functions were broken in mid-drive by one particularly nasty update. Not only is that inconvenient, it's risky. Next comes charging. DC rapid charging takes a long time. Additionally, the port may be picky even when it functions well. There are instances when it completely fails to detect the charger. Imagine that now. The car won't start in the middle of winter due to a low battery. The ID feels robust, as you would expect from a German-built car. Cheap plastics, loose trim, and 4 rattles. Volkswagen was once a symbol of engineering excellence. They seem to be taking shortcuts in order to capitalize on the hoopla around EVs. Additionally, don't assume that the car is the only issue. Owners complain about lengthy wait times for parts, unclear software patches, and inconsistent service information, and dealer help is dispersed. A fully loaded ID all-in, despite delivering the user experience of a beta test, 4 may climb above $50,000. Now let's examine the Infiniti QX50. Few premium SUVs I've driven seem as forgettable and annoying as the Infiniti QX50. At first glance, it appears promising. Sculpted lines, an interior full of technology, and an emblem that used to represent superior Nissan performance. However, behind the wheel, this is going to be a hard reality check for you. The variable compression turbo engine will be discussed first. Infiniti boasts a lot. With a fuel efficiency of a 4-cylinder engine, it should provide you with the torque of a V6. However, in practice, it is sluggish, erratic, and fails to produce efficiency or performance. That is a complete deal breaker for a premium SUV, particularly when competitors like the Acura RDX or Genesis G5070 feel far more sophisticated, smoother, and sharper. The cabin aims for an elegant appearance inside. A closer look reveals a number of antiquated design decisions, strange panel configurations, and materials that don't correspond to the $45,000 asking tag. This is where it hurts the most value for resale. The QX50 rapidly loses value quicker than the majority of high-end SUVs in its class. If you finance one now, you may end up with more debt than you can afford in a few years. Even worse, support might seem sporadic, and Infiniti's dealer network is getting smaller. Longer wait times, a constrained supply of components, and a brand that seems to be gradually retreating from the US market are all consequences of this. What do you have left then? A premium SUV that isn't future-proof, doesn't feel like luxury, and doesn't drive like luxury. It's more than just a squandered chance, it's a classic illustration of how high-tech marketing doesn't always result in tangible delight. The Jeep Grand Cherokee is next on the list. In the past, the Jeep Grand Cherokee was a representation of tough luxury. It's now among the 2025 purchases with the biggest regrets. To be honest, it looks fantastic from the outside. Sharp interior, powerful attitude, and a ton of goodies. On the inside, however, it's a disaster. A costly one. It received a startling dependability rating of 25 out of 100 from Consumer Reports. which is among the lowest in the whole mid-size SUV market. And the stories behind the numbers are just as important. Repeat visits to the dealership are being reported by owners for issues such as infotainment malfunctions, engine misfires, and faults that cause warning lights to flash uncontrollably. For service visits, one individual even stated, yet they were still unable to identify the issue. Imagine spending more than $40,000 and yet operating a car that seems unsteady, unfinished, and unstable. For far too many folks today, it is the big Cherokee experience. The bundle of technology. Although impressive at first look, it frequently freezes, crashes, or won't boot up at all. Adaptive cruise control and lane keeping have even failed in the middle of a drive for certain owners. Additionally, avoid being overly at ease when driving. Random jerks, hard downshifts, and transmission reluctance give this SUV the sensation of a beta prototype rather than a final product. All of this would be annoying in a cheap car, but it's blatantly dishonorable for a car that's being positioned as a high-end, multi-purpose SUV. If you're thinking it can't be that bad after seeing the Grand Cherokee, know that I had the same opinion. Nevertheless, once the issues arise, neither do the repair costs. Unbelievably, the car that revolutionized the electric car industry is now one of the top 2025 buyer regrets. On paper, the Tesla Model 3, particularly the basic model with rear-wheel drive, looks fantastic. Stylish appearance, quick acceleration, and a cost around $42,000. The reality is that you don't always get what you see. Since the construction quality is still an issue, let's start there. In a brand new car, we're talking about paint flaws, panel gaps, loose trim pieces, and interior rattles. The story doesn't end there. Suspension problems have been noted by owners, making the ride unpleasant and harsh, particularly on uneven ground. Furthermore, it influences the car's sense of confidence when driving, so it's not only about comfort. Next is technology, which ought to be Tesla's strongest suit. Instead, voice command failures, Bluetooth dropouts, camera issues, and screen freezes are still all too typical. Additionally, basic functions like lighting and defrost are controlled by the screen. You are no longer in charge of the car's overall operation when the system malfunctions. The worst part is that the value simply isn't there. The Model Y, which has greater room, more equipment, and all-wheel drive, is available for just a few $1,000s extra. Because of this, the basic Model 3 feels more like a placeholder for Tesla's budget than a flagship electric car. Owners are also complaining about variable repair quality, lengthy wait times for service, and delayed components. When investing in a cutting-edge brand, you anticipate greater assistance, yet Tesla's service network is still lagging behind. It's quick? Really? Yes, it looks fantastic. However, the basic Model 3 now feels risky, and most purchasers don't want to take it again. The basic Model 3 serves as a reminder that the future may still be fraught with issues from the past if you're financing an EV and hoping for peace of mind. Our list of the worst new cars available is now complete. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share if this was useful.